Okay, you have 2 minutes to answer the question.
This isn't my motion, so forgive me if I'm not completely right on this. But as far as I'm aware, this is creating a better democracy. It is dissolving power down to a low level so that people can see direct input. They can see what is happening and they can see people and they can hold them accountable rather than creating hierarchies, and it is more difficult and more difficult to get higher and higher and higher up the chain. What this motion will do is it will create a standard whereby you know who you've got to speak to. You know them as people. You know what they're good at. And it will, it will bring democracy into schools and colleges, and it will really, really help with the democratic processes of EUSA. I guess that's all I can say, because like I say, it's not my motion, but I hope I've done Joe proud.
Thank you very much. So this is about democracy. What can you possibly find fault with that? Not biased at all.
So my name's Mike, and I wasn't actually planning on speaking against this either, so this isn't going to be prepared either. There's actually, it's not actually just what's in this question that matters, it's also in what Joe will be submitting as part of the manifesto blurb, if you like, because that really clarifies what he means by a system of nested councils. What it means is a series of essentially school councils who send a delegate to student council. Now, a delegate is very, I've chosen that word deliberately because they will be mandated to vote in the same way, in the way that the school council decided. So they decide, and this person would have to go and represent that view. I think, whilst that sounds very good in principle, I think that that leads to a debate which isn't very well informed at all at student council. I also think that the decision made at that council could just go straight to the school, whereas student council at a university level should be left to decide on university-wide policies. That's very much what I spend my time doing. It's what I'm mandated to do by student council, and therefore I think that university-wide policies should be kept at that at student council. The other problem I have with this is that this is a new constitution. Essentially, it's a complete reorganisation of how we do things, and yet, even if this passed, because it's not laid out as a constitution that you can vote yes or no, it would not be valid. It would not be valid at all. So I don't think that if this question was voted through, it would actually make any difference. Yeah.
Okay, so this question is completely pointless. Does anyone have any questions? Yes.
What do you need to do then to change the constitution?
I guess that's a technical point.
Yeah, it is. Sorry, but I just...
That's okay. Yeah.
There are several ways. If it's an amendment to the constitution, you can write an amendment and put it in, and it needs to get more votes, and it needs to get a high proportion of the votes. This doesn't do that. It doesn't say what's going to be amended. It's just like a policy that won't be constitutional. The other way you could do it is to write an entirely new constitution and put that document in and say, do you approve this constitution? Yes or no?
Thank you, Mike.
Whether you agree with this motion or not, do you think democracy and participation within EUSA is a problem that needs to be dealt with? And yeah, I guess, if not this one.
Is democracy and participation a problem in EUSA?
Yes, I think that's a no-brainer. I think though this question might not be perfect, and it's certainly difficult and complicated, it's really good to put those steps in motion to create, if this question goes through, it's at least a steer. It's students saying, the way things are at the moment, they're not democratic, we don't understand them. EUSA is some ivory tower that people don't understand, like, can we have it in our hands, please? I think that's what it comes down to.
So EUSA's an ivory tower. Interesting.
Yeah, to a large extent I agree. I think that certainly the introduction of referenda such as the ones we're in now is very much a direct democratic process. far from perfect, but it is one of those processes. And I think there are also parts of this which we can bring in. Things like school councils are a really great thing. You know, they exist in some schools already. They exist in informatics, engineering, law, divinity, med school, vet school. They exist all over the place, and they do an awful lot of good work. What I don't see is it doesn't match any of the university structures. So I really don't think that this structure would be effective, even if it was able to be implemented in this way, which it isn't.
Thank you. Questions?
This isn't really a question about the question, but if this question can't actually do anything, why are we talking about it? And why is it even voted on?
I guess it's time for pointing in.
Yeah.
Two reasons. First of all, it would be policy. It just wouldn't be constitutional. So it would mean that we'd be in a situation where a policy is contradictory to our constitution. That is possible. That could happen. There's no problem with that. I guess that depends. The other reason, I mean, I guess you're asking why this question wasn't withdrawn. And the reason for that is because the body which withdraws questions is the Campaigns and Accountability Forum in the new constitution, and that body doesn't exist yet. So there was no mechanism by which we could withdraw questions.
Okay, so the body that should have withdrawn it does not exist. That sounds like a perfectly legitimate problem. Okay, what are quick questions on this one?
This week's Student had an interesting article on EUSA in which it talks about the lack of communication with EUSA as an organisation to the student body. One of the comments is it looks good in a CV. And I think the one from Claire Thompson, a 50-year mechanical engineering student, said it all. Really the only time EUSA seems visible and active is during election time. Do the participants agree or disagree that this new constitutional system that is proposed, and I would suggest to the candidate that's opposing it, that if a referendum question is to go through, then that would give the organisation a steer to implement a new constitution. Do you believe that this system of nested councils would seek to improve that?
So nested councils could improve democracy, what do you think?
Yeah, I said that a few minutes ago that, you know, even if this is constitutionally really difficult to implement and, you know, would contradict policy, the policy would contradict the constitution, you know, it's a steer, it's a step in the right direction, it's saying, look, we care about this, we're trying to address it, you know, we do care about what you want to say and we want your input, and, you know, we're going to attempt to dissolve the power and give you as much of an input as is feasibly possible. And I kind of think that this is the lowest level at which we can see people having an input.
Okay, so is the solution to the current problems of youth democracy?
I think parts of it are certainly beneficial. I don't think it solves that many problems, to be honest. Certainly the way a nested council could help to politicise people, it could help grassroots people doing grassroots campaigns. Yeah, I certainly think that's beneficial. Those are things we can do anyway. This doesn't need to go through for those things to happen. I don't think this is the solution to the democratic deficit in EUSA.
Okay, we're currently over time, so I'm going to cut that question off. Once again, a massive round of applause.